Well, what is up, everybody? It is Tuesday night. Tonight, we have got a special treat for you. We are talking to the guys that fished the Jackson Kayak Trail, Jackson Kayak Classic through USA Bassin. So hang tight. We're going to get this thing started in just a few seconds. Welcome back, everybody. Tuesday night. Tuesday night is the night over at Jackson Kayak for all you USA Bassin crew members. When we do a little thing we like to call Dock Talk, we bring in a panel of anglers on. We discuss different fishing topics going on. This particular topic, while we're on the USA Bassin page tonight, along with the Jackson Kayak outlets, just so happens to be about the USA Bassin Jackson Kayak Classic, which was held down at Kentucky Lake, which I just got back from, as well from gosh, it feels like we've been at Kentucky Lake for the last 2 months. We had the Jackson Kayak Classic down there. We turned around. We had the Directors Classic over the weekend. We had the Senior Classic. It has been a hot time in the old town down at Kentucky Lake. Very cool to see as you guys were both there. So we'll kind of go around the room here. I'm Chad Brock with Jackson Kayak. Also part of, the USA Bassin crew on the kayak side and media side and all the fun pictures that you guys have been seeing. I've been kind of working on that. But we'll go around the room and introduce our crew here. We'll start with Mr. Jason Cassetty, our one of our national tournament directors for the kayak scene. So, kind of give everybody the rundown. Who are you?
I'm a guy struggling to find good Wi-Fi, man. That's what I'm doing. I'm over in North Carolina on some business, but coming to you live from the Toyota Sion, seeing a minivan. But no, I'm just a regular dude that has a love and a passion for kayak fishing and the group that comes with it, man. They're just an excitable bunch, a great group of like-minded people that love to get after it in little plastic boats, and it's exciting to fish them. And doing this tournament director deal for USA Bassin has been a blast. You really get to see it from a couple different angles that you're not used to from an angler perspective, and it's pretty fun. It's definitely a good time. But yeah, that's me, dog. That's it. I'm pretty simple, man.
For
I'm
sure, for
married. I
sure.
got 400 kids, and I'm paying college tuition for a few. And you know, Nicole and I
And
have
and for
a
all
very
you
blessed, busy life.
and for you guys that are new to this, we do cut up and laugh a little bit. Fishing is fun. Fishing is serious. Fishing is fun. We try to keep it on both spectrums, at least while we're doing these podcasts, because there's enough people griping in podcasts that don't need to be us. So,
Amen to that.
um,
Yeah, the whole world is polarized, especially lately, and I would love for kayak fishing to be one of those things where we can kind of break away from that separation and really come together and just do one thing we love together and get after those little green and brown fish, man.
right on. Well, I'm going to slide Mr. Marcus Grubbs. Mr. Marcus Grubbs,
What's up?
introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. Where you from? What you do?
I'm just a simple man myself from southern Indiana, and I also like to fish a lot, and these plastic boats get me out there and traveling all around the world, it seems like. But uh, no, I just like to fish and get out there and compete. It's been super fun these last few years, and just want to keep it going.
Yeah. And Marcus, for those of you guys that don't know, Marcus finished second place in the USA Bassin Jackson Kayak Classic this year. But we'll get more into that a little bit later. Now for the champion, Mr. Chris Walters, man. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm making it pretty good. How are you guys?
Doing good, man. So we're just kind of going around the room, letting everybody introduce themselves. So kind of introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, how you
Sure.
got into kayak fishing.
I live in Jasper, Tennessee. I've been kayak fishing for, I guess, since about 2017. And it started out, me and a couple of my older kids, we got some paddle kayaks and started fishing here locally. And then I found CBY, Chattanooga Bass Jackers. They're out of business now, but I started fishing tournaments with them. And then someone told me about TVKA, another local club here on Lake Chickamauga, and I started fishing with those guys and been going ever since.
I like it, man. I like it. So with me tonight, Jason Cassetty, our tournament director, is also going to be kind of the co-host. So the way Dock Talk works for any of you guys that have never participated in Dock Talk, um, you're all the host, actually. So Chris and Marcus, feel free to ask each other questions, ask Jason questions. You can ask me questions. I don't know why you need to, but you can. I'm here for moral support. But yeah, that's kind of how Doc Talk works. It's just kind of an open forum. We're going to talk about the classic and kind of what went on. Um, Day one of the classic, and Jason, you probably have the numbers fresh in your mandula. So we're going to throw it up to Chris real quick. What was you come out of the day one? What was your mindset?
So I really didn't know what to expect. I've only fished Kentucky Lake. I've done 3 events on Kentucky Lake my whole life, and I did really good in one and really bad in one. So uh, I basically got off work late Thursday night, loaded the truck, got up at 3 a.m. and drove out there. And I picked the lower part of the boundary, the Tennessee part. And my plan was to just cover water with crankbaits and topwater and just see what I could find. And that was my strategy going out there. Um, Going into day one, first ramp I stopped at, I thought it would be open on a Friday morning, but it was actually there was a tournament putting in, so I had to leave there, and I just punched the closest ramp to the north on the list that you guys had, and hit go, and I ended up going up into Kentucky, back roads. It took me through a gravel, through the woods, through a mobile home park, and I came out at some resort that was north of there, and there was a couple other guys putting in there when I got there, so I ended up getting on the water right at line's end time, and it was foggy, and I just started fishing points and docks and just throwing at everything, and I went for 2 hours without a bite, and I finally came to a main lake point, and I caught a smallmouth on a rattle trap, and it was a good keeper. And then I kept fishing around. I found a little bottleneck area that had some rock, kind of like a rock point, and I fished it, and I ended up catching. I think I caught 3 fish in about 45 minutes off that one spot, and 2 of them were 17s. And I just kept fishing around that area. Fished some riprap, went down some riprap, lost a big one on a square bill. Came back to that spot later. I think I caught it took me forever to get number 5 on day one. I lost like 2 or 3 fish. Finally caught a small one on a finesse jig, I think. And then I started fishing some bottom stuff, and just a random catch, I caught a like a 18 3/4 ounce smallmouth on a plastic crawl on the bottom. And that was the only fish I caught on that bait the whole tournament, but that was my big fish for day one. And that put me up around 80 inches, I think, around 11:30 or noon. And that also kind of put in my head that I need to just let my tournament ride on that one spot, because I'd caught 3 fish off of it, 3 good fish at that point. And I decided to just stay in that area and keep hitting that spot and rotating through. And I ended up culling up a couple more times, I think, on a big flat on the rattle trap. But yeah, my best 5 on day one was, I think, 2 on a rattle trap, 2 on a square bill, and 1 on that plastic crawfish.
That's pretty awesome. And you know, just a quick side note: it's probably the only place you're going to hear trailer park and resort in the same sentence.
Yeah,
is you know, in Kentucky, but
in Kentucky,
There's Alabama. There's Alabama.
you know, Chris, one of my questions for you, being a grassroots, you know, fishing tournament series at USA Bassin, one thing you hit on right off the bat that I think a lot of people, even experienced anglers, could really draw from is that when you showed up to that boat ramp, I mean, I've known you now for about a year and a half. I know you're a very even keel guy that's hard to, you know, rattle. But how would one, or how would you recommend one to look at that situation with, you know, an open mindset, not get squirreled out and like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know what to do. And, you know, because that happens to the best of us. You know, we get up into a spot that we really have our hopes and dreams on, and someone's sitting there, or in your case, there's a whole tournament going out of that boat ramp. How would you recommend, and how do you go about handling a situation like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, getting up at 3 a.m. and just driving out there random, you got to be ready for something like that to happen. But yeah, you've always got to adapt in tournaments. There's always going to be somebody on your spot, or somebody on your first 3 spots, or, you know, somebody moving in on you. That just comes, I think, with you know, I have fished since I was about 5 years old, but I've tournament fished probably since I was in my 20s. So you kind of, I guess, get more experience. That stuff really doesn't bother you that much. You just got to make the best decision at that time, I guess.
Yeah, keeping your head down and plowing. And again, kudos to you. You know, going into this tournament, you know, it was one of those deals that, you know, I had to meet up with Chris, you know, a day before just to check his board, just because he was going to have to, you know, punch that clock at the plant and, you know, roll in the middle of the night to get to the tournament and launch. So going in blind is a understatement for you. But yeah, you definitely smashed it out, obviously, for the tournament, but right out the gate on day number 1. So great job. And just a little shout out to anybody that thinks they need 10 years of practice. You know, hey, it's not always the case.
Sure. That's for sure. We're going to throw this same question over here at Marcus. So you get there, you had a little bit, you didn't think you were going to have any time to practice, and then you ended up having a little bit of time. So kind of walk us through some of your preparations and how day one went for you.
Yeah, I was really hoping that the spot that I'd fished last year was going to be good this year, but it wasn't. I tried checking it out a couple times. So I checked out a couple other ramps instead, and the foggiest morning, I can't remember if it was Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday morning. It was so foggy I couldn't see 10 feet in front of me, but I was using my graph to figure out where the bank was. I found a couple good stretches and was catching fish. and figured, if I was just keepers, 14 inchers at the biggest. So I didn't want to beat it too hard in case I needed to use it in the tournament. So I made a decent little half-mile run or mile run or so just to see if there's more fish just biting on the bank. And I ended up running to a 5-pounder. I think it weighed 5.4, something like that. It was almost 21 inches or right around 21 inches. And I left the spot. And when I came back for the tournament, there wasn't as much fog. So when I actually saw the spot, it looked so crazy. It didn't look anything like I thought it looked like because I just hadn't actually seen it in the daylight. And I'd marked where I'd caught that big fish, and I thought I was back in a pocket, but I was on the main stretch. It was super weird. I was so confused at first, but yeah, I just beat the bank with a super shallow diving square bill early in that fog, and just picked up fish along the way and just had to beat the bank. And the first day I didn't catch any real big fish, but had a decent bag, and I with the board going off all day, I didn't know where I was sitting, so I figured I might be doing good, but wasn't sure. But at about 3 o'clock was lines out, and about 3 o'clock in 10 or 15 seconds, I got a bite, just burning that crankbait. And I don't know how big it was, but I'm thinking it was at least a 17 or 18 inch fish with as big as the mouth was, but there's no way I was going to get it into the boat on the board and a picture in 30 or 40 seconds that I had. And it came off anyway at the boat. But that fish, man, I don't know how many inches that would have gave me, but wasn't meant to be that day. So I knew that spot was good, of course. So I tried to milk it that second day, and it was even better the second day. So,
and Marcus, before we get into day number 2, day 1, and Chad, I think you had it pulled up there. I'm in the dark over here, but I believe you were in 5th place after the first day. And
I forgot to even look when you turned it back on. I forgot to even look in the morning. I didn't even know where I was sitting. Yeah.
It was a very similar position that you had finished up day 1 last year.
I think I was an inch away from that first day too, like a half inch or something, 3/4 of an inch, something like that from that first day too last year.
So how was your mindset? Well, I guess if you didn't even look, just Saturday morning when we brought the standings back up, but without looking, knowing what you had compared to last year and how that all shook out, what was your confidence like going into that night, looking ahead towards day 2?
I kind of had a feeling I was probably in that top 5 or 6. I was hoping I wasn't down, in 9th or 10th, but I thought I'd be right in that 4th or 5th range.
Nice. And
I had also heard, a couple people talked about it too, and I'd heard things, so I did,
Yeah, that chatter's always
a couple
around.
people. Right. So I always hate it. I don't like talking about it.
Yeah. Just go back to camp and let it ride. I'll pose this question to both you guys. Speaking of that leaderboard, Chris has fished the Tennessee Cast Championship, where they shut that leaderboard off, very similar to like what we did for the Classic. What did you think about that? Are you much of a leaderboard guy? And this goes to both Chris and Marcus.
Nah, I'm not much of a leaderboard guy. I don't really check it throughout the day much. There's times where I have, but 90% of the time I don't look at it at all. Maybe after I get a limit, I might look just to see, but by the time I get a limit, sometimes it's shut off anyway.
Yeah, I'm about the same. Once I submit some fish, I'll look at it. And I think, did you guys cut it off at noon on day 1? I can't remember. It was early when you cut it off.
Yeah, it was at noon on day 1, and then it went off at 10 a.m. on day 2.
Yeah, I think we only left it up for a few hours on day number 2 that's a word, to help, kind of build up the suspense a little bit. it's fun when nobody knows at the end of the day.
It is.
It was pretty fun for me and the guys at the cabin judging fish. It was a pretty good time.
Yeah. I had no idea where I was at after day one because I looked at it when I submitted my limit, and that was probably 10 or 11 o'clock, and then I think when I looked again, it was already turned off. So I had no idea going into the next morning when you turned it back on. I didn't know where I would be. There was several local guys fishing that one, and I know a lot of guys that practiced, and I had no idea what kind of inches it was even going to take.
So when you
Now,
did see it, what was your thought? What was the first thing that came to your head when you saw that leaderboard on day 2?
I thought I better just bear down and try to put some good fish on the board. Yeah, I started back in the same area on day 2, and I got off to a good start, but couldn't get any good fish during the middle of the day, and I guess we'll talk about day 2 in a minute. But that I was excited to see I was in the lead, starting on day 2.
now, my question for both of you, I guess we'll start with Marcus, and then we'll work our way back to you on this, Chris, because Marcus actually fished last year's tournament. Were you surprised about the number of smallmouth this year versus what we've seen last year, and kind of what were your thoughts seeing all the smallmouth?
And last year in practice, I caught a lot of smallmouth out of the spot that I ended up fishing. And I caught a couple, I think, for the tournament too, but definitely the size of the smallmouth that were caught. I think, who was it? Jeffrey Stewart, JT Stewart. He was on his way to a mega bag, dude. If he would have caught a couple more, one more, one of those days, whatever, he had some huge smallmouth. And I think he got in a flurry too and caught all 3 or 4 of them in 30 minutes or something crazy too. So
You
that place is
expect him to
pumping
be
out
such a
some.
player?
I think that when I go back in the spring, then I'm going to have to find smallmouth to have a chance.
But you, Chris, what'd you think of the new Kentucky Lake and all the smallmouth? And did you ever dream that would be a factor?
I had no idea. I've seen some of the pro tournaments and stuff you watch on TV. I've noticed sometimes they key on smallmouth there, but I'm not a smallmouth guy. But I did day 1. I had two of my best 5 were smallmouth, and that first one was on the rattle trap out on Main Lake Point. It was up on top of it. And then the other one was that random catch on that plastic crawfish. I don't know. Day 2, I think I may have hooked a smallmouth on day 2 on a square bill because, it took off like a tuna, and it came off pretty quick. But it definitely felt like a smallmouth when I hooked it.
Now, day 2 is where, day 1 was what it was, but day 2 for both of you was kind of dramatic fashion, to say the least. There's some stories that kind of go along with the day. I guess to kind of preface it a little bit, midday, we're looking at the leaderboard, and Jason's sitting there, and I'm kind of waiting. I've got my little camera in my hand, and I've got my boat hooked up to the truck, and it's like I'm waiting on somewhere to go who I'm going to go take pictures with. Well, Chris, you'd kind of fell off the pace just a little bit. Now, kind of talk about lead us up to the morning, and just kind of talk about up till noon, and then we'll bring Marcus on, let him go, and then we'll switch the roles back here for the latter part of the day.
Okay. Day 2, like I said, day 1, that spot where I caught the 3 good fish. Day 1, I caught like 2 17s and that 18 3/4 smallmouth off this one spot, and I thought, I need to start. I need to start there and at least give it a chance. And I started out there right at daylight. I was throwing crankbaits, and I think I threw a jig some. And I always tell people I listen to the voices in my head, and something kept telling me to throw some topwater. So I threw a walking topwater bait up there, and a 19-incher just absolutely crushed it. It was like a shark attack. And I got that fish in. I think that was like 30 minutes into the morning, and that just that sealed the deal on me staying around that area and giving that spot a chance. And I kept fishing around. I can't remember how long it took me to get a limit, but it was like a 19 and a couple 14s and maybe a 13 and a 12, maybe around noon probably. I had that 19 and four small keepers, and most of them were on the top water. The top water was better for me on day 2. That 19 actually came on a vintage Excalibur spitting image walking bait, probably 25, 30-year-old bait I had.
Now, rumor has it there was a lost bait that happened for you out there on day number 1.
Well, that Excalibur walking bait, I actually broke it like an hour after I caught that 19 on it. One blew up on it, and I came with a huge hook set, and it came flying back at the boat 100 miles an hour and hit the side of the boat, and I broke it. So I ended up finding another topwater bait that they would bite, but I had to rotate through a couple. I had one with like a feather treble on the back, and they wouldn't touch it. And then a Sexy Dog Junior, I think it's a Strike King. That was the one that I started catching fish on again. But yeah, the lost bait was my little square bill. That was a Bill Lewis square bill in a shad color. I had to rotate through square bills some that first morning too to find one that I felt like they would bite. And I don't know what kind of line I had on my square bill rod on day 1, but the rocks were just tearing it to pieces, and I was having to retie and retie and retie. I retied like 8 or 10 times on day 1, and I actually cut so much line off, my spool got low. So between day 1 and day 2, well, actually on day 1, I had like a 13-inch fish on there, and it made a dive at the boat and broke my line from a frayed spot. And there went my square bill that they were biting, and that was the only one of those I had in that color. And I was sitting there digging around in my square bill box to find something else. And I just happened to look over there where the fish kind of went, and there was my square bill floating on top of the water. So I went over there and grabbed that up and tied it back on. But that night I ran to Walmart, and if I'd been lazy and not switched the line out, I don't think I would have caught the fish that did it for me on day 2, because that line I had on there was not holding up to the rocks very good. And I ran to Walmart and got some different kind of line and re-spooled my square bill rod at the hotel that night. And it turns out it really paid off on day 2.
So, I mean, what what are
Go
the
ahead.
odds that you're going to hook a fish, and that heartbreak when it comes off? I mean, in hindsight, a little 13-inch fish obviously wouldn't have did you much good, but when it breaks off and swims off with your game-winning shallow square bill crankbait, I mean, I'm flipping out, dude. I'm putting on a scuba mask. I'm going in there. But how good is God when it decides it's going to spit that thing out and pop up next to your boat? I mean,
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. No,
Not to me, anyway.
no, no. I think when it's your time, it's your time, and apparently this was my time. I don't know. There was several things happened that just everything went my way, I guess. But I did lose a big fish each day. I lost about a 4-pounder the first day on the riprap, and day 2 I hooked that big smallmouth, and it came off.
Nice.
Now, Marcus, you're out there. It's day number 2. You kind of got off to a pretty good start, man.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I don't know how long it took, but I feel like I caught like a 16 first, something like that, and then 217 and some changes like back to back on the same spot. And I'm just beating the bank. I'm getting as close and parallel to the bank as I can. Throwing a square bill that dives like 3 feet deep, I think. So I'm grinding it, and I end up with a 80 some inch limit, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And a few casts later, I catch an 18 and some change, and it ends up being like a 82 inch limit or 80 something, and I catch another one that ends up being 85, and I'm like, what the heck, like, holy crap, what a morning. These fish weren't here yesterday morning. I hit the exact same stretch that I'd hit the morning before, the exact same way. They were up there real good. And I think my smallest fish was a 16 something or a 16 incher, and I just couldn't get anything bigger. I caught fish all day. I just couldn't call that sucker out. I covered a ton of water. I hit banks I hadn't hit. I just had no confidence going much deeper, and didn't catch any fish any deeper than 6 foot. So I ended up later in the day switching to a Fritz-side 5, and if anybody throws those, you better have 30 or 40 of them because you break the bills off of all of them. And I only had 5 or 6, and I think I caught a couple of my bigger fish on those, the Fritz-side 5. But like I said, I broke, I'd say 7 or 8 throughout the week, and I lost the square bill I was using. I think I had one at the end of the tournament. I think they were eating a DT6 pretty decent too, but that's all I could get them to eat was crankbait. I couldn't drag anything. I couldn't throw a topwater long enough to get them to eat it. But
Now, what was your feeling? I mean, obviously, we're sitting there, we're waiting, and you get that text and asked if you were going to be staying in the same spot. Did you figure something was up at that point?
I knew something would be up with 85 inches, no matter what. Like, I knew somebody would have to stumble, but I knew I had a chance just with that big of a bag. And I knew if I caught a 17 or an 18 incher, then I really make somebody have to catch a bag, but they just, I never ran into that. I knew it was going to be tough to get that bigger fish in the afternoon. The afternoon bite never went well for me in that spot.
Yeah, because you when I got there, you was starting to lose it, and it was really a shade line that you was running pretty much throughout as long as you could in the morning, to keep the bites going, and it was starting to fade away and
I
get
needed
high
that
sun.
fog. I needed that shade and that fog to keep them up shallow because I couldn't get them. I saw them out in 10 foot, 8 foot, 12 foot, stuff like that. I'd drag stuff over them. I'd drop a Ned rig on them. I'd drop all kinds of crap on them just to see if they'd eat, and they wouldn't eat anything. I'd crank a deeper crankbait into them, and I don't know. I'm not super good at knowing what kind of fish I see on the graph, but there was definitely some fish out a little deeper from where I caught them in the morning. I just couldn't get them to eat anything.
Did either one of you have a feeling that the tournament was locked up at the end of the day, like when you come off the water?
No, man. I had confidence that it was close. I knew I had a chance, but I had no idea. I wanted it. I wanted to win, of course. I was praying. I was hoping.
Yeah, that's the drama. I mean, really, for me, just watching and waiting, and when you put up that bag on day two, Marcus, it's like, oh my gosh, he's got the monster bag of the event. He's going to be tough to beat. But then you look down the leaderboard, which was dark at this time, and you could see Walters. It's like, oh God, there's Chris Walters, because if he's fishing the tournament, he's in contention, right?
Yeah.
So and then I start to like break down his bag, and I'm like, okay, well, he's a decent fish for him will really bump him up big time. Well,
Yeah.
you've really got to catch a big fish to make a
Yeah.
small call.
Well, I don't look at the leaderboard,
And
like I said, much. And I heard Chris, I heard his name, but it didn't register. And then when I saw who Chris was, I was like, shoot, because I fished with him, and I fished with him down south, and I know he's a freaking stick. And we seriously just sat next to each other at the Tennessee State Championship,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was just random, and I think you finished in the top 5 there too. So I knew it was going to be rough for me.
Yeah, it was definitely a nail biter, and crazy exciting to watch from a TD perspective, for sure. So, I mean, when it came down to the end of the day two, that award ceremony was definitely an intense and emotional moment for myself and everybody. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
So, Chris, let's talk about how things got going for you in that afternoon, because by the time that I had gotten back to the cabin, things were starting to change. And I just drove basically 2 hours to get to Marcus and get back, plus time on the water. So I was like, nothing had changed when I left. But by the time I had gotten back, I had already passed you en route to the cabin, thinking, okay, well, nothing exciting's happening right now. But then it all changed. So let's talk about that change.
Yeah, so I knew you guys were turning the leaderboard off at 10, I think, that on day two. So I did not have a limit at 10 o'clock, but around, I don't know, 9:30 or something, I turned in my 3 fish I had, I think, and one of them was that 19, and then I think I had a 14 something and a 13 or something like that. And I just kept fishing around that area. I expanded a little bit, and I ended up getting my limit, and I actually caught one on a jig, dragging a jig around out deeper and probably 6-7 foot, and it was, I think, 14 3/4. Anyway, I ended up with like a 19, and I think I called up my smallest fish to 14. I had like 4 14-inchers and a 19. And I saw that Marcus had 85 already on the board, and I did some quick redneck math in my head. I knew that I was going to have to get over 80 to catch him. And that would be if he didn't curl up anymore. And I just kept grinding. That's what I always do anyway. Whether I win or finish dead last, I just keep chunking and winding and trying different stuff. And I stayed around that spot where I'd caught all my good fish, and I kept trying it and everything. But it was kind of a bottleneck spot, and I also noticed there was a lot of bait in that area. And I also noticed that occasionally when the wind would blow a little bit, it would push water through there. The water would move. And that was usually when I would get a good bite, when the water would move. And I just kept with it. And I was telling Jason that it was over at 3, and sometime around 2 o'clock, I was like, I'm going to go and hit that spot one more time. and throw my square bill, throw my top water. And I'd throw my top water down the bank, nothing. And it was kind of dead calm, but I think they either slowed the river down or something happened with the river, main river, because there was no wind, but the water started moving and it was backing up. It was backing up into the back of that slough. And I was I thought I've fished this spot for 2 days. I'm ready to fish my way back to the ramp, maybe try to catch a random fish off of a boat dock or whatever. And I'm just making fan casts around, and the boat is spinning around, and it's going up toward the rocks. And I'm actually getting up on the rocks, and I throw my square bill out deep, and I'm bringing it up the rocks, and it's kind of stair stepping it up the rocks. And I get a bite, set the hook, and it starts pulling the kayak, and I'm like, oh, this may be the one right here. And I fight it around, do a terrible net job on it. The treble hooks get hung in the net, and it's hanging outside the net. And I scoop it and make one scoop, and it's in there, and it was 19.5 inches. And that was right at 2 o'clock. By the time I turned it in, it was after 2 o'clock. And did that quick redneck math again, and I figured that put me up around 82. So I knew Marcus was going to have to be up around 87, and I didn't know there were other guys that were close on day one. I had no idea what they had. They could have caught 90 inches, and I would, nobody would have known. So I had no idea, but I did know that I had given myself a chance, and that was pretty exciting. And I ended up leaving that spot around 2:30 and just fishing my way back toward where I put in. But it was an exciting tournament. The weather was awesome, and I had a good time.
Well, we couldn't have asked for a better weekend to be on Kentucky Lake in October. I don't think.
Right.
It was beautiful, just all the way around. Just beautiful nights, beautiful mornings. A little bit of fog there on the second day, but not bad. Not like it was in practice anyway. So coming into weigh-in, obviously, Chris, you ended up taking home the win in dramatic fashion. Marcus comes in. It's right there. I mean, 164 and 3/4 to 162 and a half. Making Marcus' second year at the JK Classic, and obviously second year at second place. So he wanted to win it, but like you said, Chris, when it's your time, it's your time. So how much to you did it mean to take home, beat the national championship of USA Bassin and, beat out your peers from New York? I mean, we had people from New York, from Texas, all over the country. It had to feel good.
Oh man, that was my biggest win ever. That was amazing. That trail is well organized, and you guys do a great job with it. And I'm thankful Cassetty got me involved in it. He kind of came to our local club and explained how USA Bassin, the divisions work and everything. Explained the point system to qualify for the championship and everything. And I'm really glad I got involved with it. That was a neat deal.
That's something a little different. I mean, to have that opportunity to kind of jump in a few events closer to home and, be able to compete somewhere in the end at a national level, I think says a lot. It's one of the cool things about the trail. Don't burn up a bunch of vacation time if you don't want it to. I mean, obviously you can travel around with the trail if a guy wanted to. They could go out to New York or whatever, but for the most part, I think guys like the fact that they can fish local and then burn that 1 week of vacation to go out and fish and have a good time. So Marcus, 2 years back to back, second place, which is very respectable.
For
Um,
sure.
Very, very respectable. That's a tough task when you really look at the scope of things and guys coming from all over the country and Kentucky Lake, man. I mean, it could
Yeah, I
be
know.
anybody's day on Kentucky Lake. It just takes the right wind, the right current, the right spot at the right time, and anything can happen on Kentucky Lake. Um, so yeah, I mean, you gotta probably walk away a little bit satisfied with the finish. I know
Oh,
it's hard, but
yeah,
gotta have
big
a little
time.
bit of satisfaction.
Oh yeah, that's super consistent. The 2 years in a row, and I don't have much experience on the lake, so I do now a little bit more. I fished a ton now, but just in the fall, I don't have hardly any experience in any other time of year. But it's treated me well. I don't know why, but I've been able to land on them both years and been able to do it 2 years in a row or 2 days in a row. I mean, that usually doesn't happen, um, for me at least. Uh, so I'm super psyched on how good they were biting, how many fish I caught over the two tournaments, the 2 years. It's an awesome time to be on Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, I know how you did it. I mean, you and Chris both ended up in the positions you were because you're both sticks. You're both phenomenal anglers.
Let's grind it.
And congratulations again to both you guys. It's by no accident that you ended up 1 and 2. I do know a guy that predicted who was going to win this tournament, and it was the two guys that were on the screen. That was my guess. If Bet GM or whoever MG has a line for kayak fishing in the future, I might be able to quit my day job and just put my money on Grubbs and Walters and go to bed a happy man. But no, you guys, it's not luck that got you guys here. It's your grit and your willingness to get out there and get after it. That's why you guys are 1 and 2, and uh, congratulations again. You guys both killed it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It was a ton of fun.
So overall, what are you guys excited about for 2025? You guys got any plans? What are you looking forward to for this trail and what's to come?
Wow, just looking forward to fishing some more, and where have you announced where the championship next year will be?
It's coming. It's coming soon. We've got it. We know where we want to have it. Let's put it that way. We know where we want to go. We just got to get a few logistics worked out, and then we're hoping that the kayak trail. While we love Kentucky Lake and we can't thank Marshall County Tourism enough, we want to give our anglers a different opportunity as well before we come back to Kentucky Lake again.
Right. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and there hasn't been many schedules released, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but I'm excited to go fish Dale Hollow next month. I want to go fish
Oh,
it
for
next
sure.
week. I want to go fish it tomorrow.
The hardware's piling up behind you, man.
I need some more.
Does
They're
it
all
for the
old.
wood.
It's all
Does it for the
2022.
wood. Does it for the wood. How about you, Chris?
Well, I'm currently in deer hunting mode here. I've not done any fishing for a while, but I actually haven't fished since I left Kentucky Lake. But I'm looking forward to next year. I've seen the TVKA schedule, and I know they got a joint event with USA Bassin. I believe it was in April. I'll definitely hit that one. And I've not seen the USA Bassin schedules yet, but I'm definitely going to try to get enough points to make the championship again. And congrats to Marcus on second 2 years in a row. That's an accomplishment in itself right there. Because those guys, there was plenty of local guys in that event too.
I appreciate it.
Thanks to Jason and Chad for organizing all this stuff. This is a neat deal to let people compete. And I did see Bass Nation has got one on Kentucky Lake in April also, I think.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to figure out those smallmouths.
Yeah.
The old
Yeah.
lake is coming back quick, fast, and in a hurry. That's for sure. I mean, I seen it over the weekend. If you had 18.7, 18.9, you got a check. If you had 18 pounds, you didn't get a check. So it's pretty wild down there right now. It's interesting to see, and I'm interested to see it continue to develop down there. But yeah, I'm gonna let Marcus and Chris, you guys thank anybody that you want to thank as far as your sponsors, folks at home, just in general. Go ahead and thank who you need to thank, and tell people where to find you guys on social media.
Sure. I always just thank our local directors and everything. These guys are really, and they're doing all the social media work too. They're promoting, they're beating the streets and getting the sponsors and then promoting them on social media. I think everybody knows my local club, TVKA. That was Steve Owens and Ryan Lambert and Daniel Davis that started that, and we've got some new guys helping out with it now. They're doing a really good job. And Dugout Bait and Tackle has always sponsored everything with our club and our Tennessee Bass Nation, and they've always taken care of prizes and trophies and all that stuff. So I'm going to give them a shout out for sure. And yeah, that's it. Thanks to you guys, and I'm thankful I got a wife that lets me get up in the middle of the night and drive to Kentucky Lake and fish for 2 days and drive back. And you got to have a support team to chase these trails.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Chris. It's been good having you on here. Marcus.
Man, I gotta thank Kayak some more first off for hooking me up with everything they've done the last couple of years. It's been awesome. They're the cream of the crop. If you need anything and you're in the area, stop by. They got what you need. Call them up. They can get you what you need and hook you up with any way you want. Jackson Kayak for sure. I got to thank Chad and Jason for doing all you guys do, and behind the scenes, I mean, you guys work too hard. I don't envy how hard you guys work, but my parents do. They watch my kids so I can do this. Like they're always willing. They're psyched to watch me chase the dream too. Just they're psyched. They're more psyched than I probably am most of the time. So
Yeah, definitely shout out to your mom and dad. It's fun to watch their support for you.
Yeah.
They love it, and that's very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we are going to let you guys go. Jason and I will close this thing out. Check these guys out on social. Find them. I know you're at Dad's Bassin is Marcus, and what was yours, Chris?
I'm actually on my wife's Facebook because I'm so bad with social media.
It's tell Chris's wife if you need to get a hold of him, he can get you. Or call Jason.
Right. That's right. It's Chris and Aaron Walters on Facebook.
There you go. And thanks to both of you guys for coming out and attending, and we look forward to seeing you guys out there again next year.
Yes.
But yeah, just hang out for a second. We'll be right with you. We're going to close this thing out. There it is, bud. Another year.
There it is.
Another year is in the books. It has been a crazy 2 months. I hate that it took us this long. Usually we do this recap like the next week, man. But like I've been gone back and forth between Kentucky Lake and other tournaments, so it's been wild. So it's fun to relive it a little bit, parts and pieces of it, and get to see it. And man, I'm looking forward to next year already now. I was ready for a nap earlier today.
It's going to be wild for sure. Should be a wild, good time. Like you kind of preluded to earlier, getting ready to announce the classic location for 2025 here very soon. and I believe Texas has already rolled out their schedule. Vic White's got that up on the USA Bassin page. We're
Yep.
waiting on one more local trail. We've got one date, like Chris mentioned, already ironed out with a local trail we're working with, to help, get more bodies out there on the water, working together with the kayak community as a whole to help grow that community. We hear it and say it all the time. We want to grow the sport. But I mean, we're putting, the feet to the ground to actually help make that happen. It's easy to say, it's a little harder to do, but we don't want to lose the momentum of being that, fastest growing outdoor sport. We want to keep that fire burning, whether you're pedal power, however you do it. We want to get you out there in them plastic boats and come out and join us, have a great time. It's a blast. It's a low barrier to entry. We check our egos at the boat ramp, and when we get out there on the water, it's all good fun.
I mean, I think New York's getting ready to drop their schedules. I actually have the schedules for New York in hand. 2 schedules, I might add. So New York's doubling down. They're going to have 2 different trails this coming year. I know Rudy's
Nice.
working tirelessly out there in Maryland, trying to get some dates. The folks down in Kentucky are waiting to see on some dates as well. Indiana, I've got the dates in hand. They're ready. I might make. I'm tossing around a couple venues in my mind and just kind of waiting to see. Kansas, I know they're probably getting ready to get theirs together as well. It's just everybody's waiting on some big national dates and different things to get everything together. But everything should be out by January 1st at least.
Yeah, it's a
which
big
would be
piece of the
good.
puzzle. Everybody
It
always
is,
wants
and
those schedules out, but you gotta to grow it. You gotta work together as much as possible, so there's not too much overlap. You can't prevent everything, but
yeah.
we want to give everybody that opportunity. So,
And speaking of growth, for Jason and I, we have to thank a few people. Number one, Evolve Fishing. They stepped up, sent over some stuff for the classic. Got some fresh, clean new rod sleeves in these guys' hands, especially Marcus and Chris. Then you know, Z Pro Lithium had a battery for us. Orion Coolers, which is part of Jackson Kayak, we had a cooler on hand. We had 2 boats that were one boat was raffled off, which was the Bite Angler, and then we had the Blue Sky Boat Works, which Chris ended up winning. So we can't thank my crew at Jackson Kayak enough for their support in what Jason and I are trying to build with this trail. It's absolutely paramount to making this thing grow. Marshall County Tourism. Marshall County Tourism stepped up. They put in, and we wanted to get kayak anglers down there, and they helped Jason and I out quite a bit on that. What else did we have? We had
we
garage
had
beer.
beer, garage
We
beer,
had garage
baby.
beer.
Let's go.
Cannot thank the folks at Garage Beer enough. They are absolutely phenomenal people. They make good beer flavored beer. So if you guys are looking for a new fresh outlook on your beer, Garage Beer's the new light beer. You should try it. It's worth it. The lime is also fire. The guys had lime at the check-in, and it was good. So Josh was a little intern. Josh, he was out there stuffing beers and koozies, Jackson Kayak koozies, and handing them off to different anglers. And man, we had all kinds of stuff. I can't even remember it all in the moment. We had jerky, beef jerky from Wild River Beef Jerky.
Wild River beef jerky, yeah.
Wild River Beef Jerky. I mean, the folks at Kentucky Lake Outdoors were nice enough to let us come and hang out at their shop. All the awards the last 2 years have been there, so we got to thank them for the use of their space. But yeah, fire,
and the
thank
anglers, thank you
yeah,
all for
the anglers.
coming out, and whether you fished a classic or not, showing up to these events throughout the year is what it's all about. It's why we do it. You know, these companies like Jackson, especially, they don't have to do these kind of events. They don't have to give away kayaks. You know, tourism bureaus don't have to step up and give away money, but they do, and it's all for you guys. And we wouldn't do any of it if y'all didn't show up. So thank you for showing up. Keep showing up. Tell a friend. Uh, Bring a friend. Share it around. And if you want to be a director, um, get in touch with us. You know, if you want to have a division in your area and there isn't one, we can make that happen for you for free. So, it's real
Yeah,
easy to
you'll
do.
make money
It's
off
it's
this deal.
easy. Yeah, it is so easy to get into, and um, yeah, you can be a part of, you know, growing the kayak community. Gotta do.
And
Hey, if you want to do it, do it.
I got to give a thank you to a group of people down in Draffinsville, or what is it? How do you say it?
I, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, it's drafting.
yeah. Hey, you
Did you freeze up? There he is. He's back.
yeah. So the Damn Brew House, DAM. These guys have got a great little microbrewery right there, just on the other side of Kentucky Lake Outdoors. Well, they have kind of been nice enough to let us come in. We kind of start our after party there every year. Great food, great people. If you're in the area, we highly recommend checking them out because, like I said, they have let us come in. They've kept the doors open. They know we're coming, and they've been absolutely wonderful host for us kayakers that like to come over and shoot the breeze, have a few
Yeah.
drinks after the tournament winds down. So thank you to those folks.
Yep. Tell them Jackson Kayak sent you if you're there on trivia night. Uh, Team Jackin' and
We
Yakkin'.
figured out we are not very good at
We're not.
trivia, not very good at all. In
We're
case anybody wants to know. But anyway, season's a wrap for the kayak tour. We're looking forward to seeing you guys out there next year.
yes.
Um, I'm 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 going fishing now. I'm done. So I'd hit the
I'm gonna go
button, but
buy
I've
a house,
lost it.
Chad.
Go
We
buy a
we got
house. I'm going
we got to
fishing.
buy a house.
We're going. So good night,
All right.
everybody. Thanks to the USA Bassin crowd for listening in tonight. We hope to be doing more of these kinds of things for you guys here in the future. Good night, all.
Peace.